Hiya there. I'm Jules Brown. We're getting a bit dark and mysterious and low lights today as we review the Cabaret Voltaire album, Red Mecca, which was released in September 1981, recorded in May 1981. I'm a bit of a Cabs fan. I've heard quite a lot of their stuff, most of their stuff. The only stuff of theirs I'm not so keen on, I would say, was the material they were doing between about 1988 and 1990, which I think was kind of influenced by a lot of the kind of emerging drum and bass and techno club sounds that were going on at that time, and just that music they were doing around that time was really kind of the bass drum, unforgiving, in your face sort of sound. Didn't do anything for me, but they came out of that period eventually, and then 1992 recorded a fantastic album called Plasticity, which who knows I might review in the future. But now we're going back to 1981 and Red Mecca. Now the Cabs spent some time in America doing a tour in 1979, and I think we were influenced by a lot of what they saw out there, the rise of the fundamentalist Christian right, and it influenced a lot of the sort of dialogue and the cut-ups and the samples and things that they used on their forthcoming music, including on Red Mecca. Of course, the Cabaret Voltaire were from Sheffield, and a lot of their early works, and indeed most of their work, I guess, was recorded at Western Works, their own recording studio in Sheffield. The album starts off with a touch of evil, starts off with a big screech of a vocal sound, bongos prevalent with Stephen Malander playing those. This has got a feeling, totally reminds me actually of John Hassell. I don't know if you've heard any John Hassell music, but that sort of that percussive effect with strings, or rather with horns and brass, and staccato sort of percussion in and out, very much gives that sort of feeling of dissonance, lack of harmony, and it builds up. Well, yeah, the brass and horns, I believe, are the Richard Kirk's duty in the band, and it builds up to this sort of crescendo where we have a false ending. You just like think, and then it ends in a very avant-garde sort of way. And track number 2, Slide Out, I would call primitive funk. A real bass guitar in there, clattering drums. It doesn't sound like a proper drum kit. It sounds like, somebody's using Tupperware. No hi-hat to speak of. Apparently the drums were played by Nick Allday. No hi-hat, as I say. Filtered vocals filtered through something like a flanger, which is a recurring theme and phaser, but particularly a flanger crops up on the guitars as well on this album, and some strange synth noises, and the flanger effects are on the guitar quite heavily on Slide Out. Track number 3, Landslide. So there's a drum machine, I think, in there with a descending guitar line. Always very kind of basic kind of guitar lines, but quite interesting. Sounds like they're played by quite often non-musicians. They're not actually. They're just dampening down the strings, with just one little finger here maybe, and just experimenting with what they can do on the guitar, which I'm all for. Cabaret Voltaire was always more of an art group or a art school group, creating interesting sounds and being politically engaged, not bothered with playing the 12-bar blues necessarily. Back to Landslide, it's got these voice cut-ups and samples, although they weren't proper samples, were they, in those days? It sounds a bit like, I suppose, the band Magazine, but definitely inverted and even more lo-fi, much more lo-fi than Magazine. Track number 4, 1,000 Ways. This is a very long, menacing track, of sub 10-minute track, treated and changing drum snare sound. The drum snare is sounds like a gunshot, and it's always changing the sound of it throughout the song, varying sounds and varying loudness of this effective snare drum gunshot sound, if you like. And it continues, this track, as I say, for 10 minutes. Flanged guitar, excuse me, staccato spoken and shouted vocal, which is the general theme of the album. That'll be Stephen Malander, I guess, he doesn't so much sing as speaks or announces his words and shouts indecipherable words quite often. An organ playing chords, all the while the gunshot snare is tight, varying in its sound and tone and loudness. Fuzzy distorted guitar merging with these strange keys and organ sounds. The organ continues on and off throughout the song to good effect. Gated reverb on the gunshot snare occasionally. And there's this almost unnoticeable bass drum sound in it. I think it's a drum machine. It's hard to tell on some of these. But it is in there. During the quieter moments, you hear this very, very down in the mix bass drum sound. And there's more dissonance towards the end of the song. And it ends in either phasers or probably flanger sounds, just generally on the whole song at the end. Number 5 is Red Mask. Again, the non-drum kit is back. So he's playing, it sounds like he's playing his Tupperware again. The guitarists playing, like I say, like they're experimenting with all these sort of sounds with limited guitar effects, but very effective and works for what they're trying to do. Fizzes along, does Red Mask. Almost there's a kind of a wah-wah guitar sound at some points in the song. The flange sound is in there. Spoken word, menacing again. It's a bit like a little bit like early Human League meets early The Fall, but it just sounds more important and sounds more serious than those two acts. Whatever that might mean. And the flanger drums. Flanger on the drums. Let's bring it back. Yeah, so that's Red Mask. Yeah, the guitar on Red Mask, he's Richard H. Kirk playing guitar, I think. He's just not improvising, but he's playing around a little bit there and seeing what he can do with his limited ability, but the ideas are the most important thing. Track number 6, Split Second Feeling. 2 chords, 1 vision. A bit Suicide-esque. Sounds like a sequencer in there, distorted guitar, simple 2 or 3 note bass line. Nice blending of the guitar, and I think that's a Vox Continental keyboard in there, played by the guy who became the sound man or does crop up on BBC's Springwatch every now and again. Christopher Watson. He was in Cabaret Voltaire at the time, playing Vox Continental and dabbling around with tapes. Yeah, drum machine and Split Second Feeling, hypnotic number, this one. They seem to be on a 1 on this one. There's not so much dissonance. It's got more of a thing, more of more of a groove going, if you like. And that back to the dissonance, I suppose, for the rest of the album. On track number 7, Black Mask, atmospheric, starts with all these synth noises. The drum sound is a bit normal. It's a bit more normal. It's a bit more like a proper drum kit, and there's even some proper hi-hat in there, actually. Undecipherable. The hi-hat is decipherable, I should say. It's like a squelchy bass guitar. That's lovely. Strings in the background. There's voices going on in the background as well. It sounds like voices have been sampled or cut up. This strange backwards sounding recording of keyboards or something in the mix as well. All kind of noises going on in Black Mask. And then track number 8. This is a not a very welcome title for us all at the moment. It's a track called Spread the Virus. This is a bit Joy Division-esque. Filtered sounding drums. Perhaps a drum machine. Quite fast track. Throaty vocal from Malander. Spoken fast number keyboard. Got a keyboard hook, which sounds like a sort of a brassy sound on the keys. Drum programming is kind of all over the show. Well, maybe playing the drums on some sort of gadget, but when you program drums, you like to think you're going to do mostly the same thing throughout, but bits of this, it's unpredictable, and suddenly some strange little drum fills come in, just to throw you. Keyboard, the keyboard sounding, as I said before, like brass. The last track on the album is the reprise version of A Touch of Evil. Those percussive bongo sounds come back, and the John Hassel-esque general return, sparse and spare keyboards only comes back for about a minute, and that ends the album. Quite a challenging, difficult at times album. Red Mecca, there it is, by Cabaret Voltaire, 1981. Whilst the rest of us were listening to Planet Earth by Duran Duran, or Back of Love by Echo and the Bunnymen, there was stuff like this out there. Very challenging album, always worth a listen. I'll give it a... it's always difficult, isn't it, when you've marked something completely at odds with it beforehand. But I'm going to give it at least an 8 out of 10. There you go. Red Mecca, Cabaret Voltaire. Not going to change my mind. 8 out of 10. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with the beautiful atmosphere here. And it's a bit dark. And thanks for listening again. I'm Jules Brown. This is Off the Cuff Reviews. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please do so. Press that little subscribe button and pass any comments you may say is fit for human consumption. And let's do this again. Do this again soon. And who knows what I'll be reviewing next? Well, I do. Okay, stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. Speak soon. Thank you. Bye bye.